Hello and welcome to the MovieBoozer.com virtual pub. I'm your host Ken Ekman, and I'm joined today by the full cast of characters. I've got Hawk Ripjaw, I've got Bill Leon, I've got Bill Arsenault. Say hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
I wish that this cigarette was a huge stogie, so it would coincide with Expendables.
It's not what I
Oh.
thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, was it Freud who said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar?
No, he wasn't talking about that, Ken. But we get your joke.
And George Carlin said, yeah, and sometimes it's a big brown dick. So, today's beer that I will be trying out is another from my favorite, the Two Brothers Brewing Company of Warrenville, Illinois. It is a can, this time, Dog Days Lager.
Oh, I've had that.
Yes, Dog Days Dortmunder-style lager beer. This German-style Dortmunder lager is golden in color with a delicate caramel malt and character balanced by a light body and mild German noble hops, creating a crisp, refreshing finish. 5.1% alcohol by volume. So you've had it?
Yeah, I have. It's not bad.
Yeah, I've had the only can of Two Brothers I've had before was their Outlaw India Pale Ale, which is pretty good. But in general, their bottled beers are a little bit higher quality. But that said,
I'm not big on canned beers, although a lot of breweries vouch for them as a way to maintain the quality of the beer as it gets shipped and stored.
well, yeah, it allows them to distribute a little bit further and more. You know, that's probably why it's gotten out in your area, because Two Brothers, my understanding is their distribution wasn't until very recently wasn't going out that far. So, all right. So as you can see, it's got a good golden color. So let's give it a shot.
All right.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good beer. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's going to win awards, but I would say as far as off-the-shelf lagers go, this one drinks quite well. It has a nice bitter beginning and a smoother finish than I would say some cheaper lagers might go. And it's got a little bit of carbonation, but not too much. So, seal of approval.
I got this Vincent Van Gogh caramel vodka. Whoa, you can almost see the logo. Not really. Yeah.
I have Jack Daniels.
Nice.
Very nice.
I have Barks Red Cream Soda in a Saints cup.
Nice. A Saints paper cup?
Mm. No, it's plastic.
We're really getting into diminishing returns with that. I mean,
With what?
well, you know, you've got, well, all of us are drinking something, but Barks root beer I've always thought is just kind of, I admit I'm a root beer snob. To me, it's like the bargain basement root beer.
Oh, fuck you.
Oh, I have an Adventure Time glass.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
I have a Lego Movie Batman cup.
Nice.
All right. I should be drinking. I should probably be drinking this out of my my Ender's Game AMC movie theater cup, but that's too big.
This is a glass that I got for free for buying a bottle of Jameson for Christmas a couple years ago.
Ah, those deals. Yeah, those are cool.
Oh yeah, that's almost my entire collection of glasses come from those free deals. I never buy bottles of beer or of whiskey until Christmas time, because that's when you get the free glasses or maybe a flask or stuff like that.
No, duly noted.
Yeah, always check that. With that said, we've had quite a few movies to go over, so first of all, why don't we go ahead and address an elephant in the room that we kind of left there stinking and rotting last week, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Still #1 at the box office, Teenage Mutant Ninja
Stinking and
Turtles
rotten
movie.
indeed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I seriously have fuck all to say about this movie, so I'm going to let whoever has anything to say just go off on a rant.
Well, I want to hear what Hawk Ripjaw has to.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, surprising restraint when it came to Megan Fox butt shots.
There's that one scene where Will Arnett is like, keep hanging out the car.
Yeah, right. I mean, you got to have that. If Megan Fox is in the movie, you just got to have
Well,
one of
that
those.
kind of bothered me because I'm like, how old is Will Arnett?
Like twice your age.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well,
like, Megan Fox's butt is like the John Woo doves. Everybody has to have their thing that they do in every single one of their movies.
if the
Quentin
Doves ever.
Tarantino has feet.
Right.
Sergio
And
Leone
shots.
has the close-up face shot.
If Doves ever come out of her ass, then the universe will implode.
Oh Jesus,
That
that's
would be a Hard Boiled 2, where Megan Fox is the damsel in distress because
Right.
John Woo isn't crazy enough as it is.
How about when Michael Bay and John Woo team up to direct a sequel to Face Off, in which Megan Fox switches her face with Sheila Booth?
Was Michael Bay involved in Face Off?
No, it
I
was a
don't think
Jerry
so.
Bruckheimer production, though, and Jerry Bruckheimer
God.
was,
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
his studio basically created Michael Bay. So
Mhm.
He lives!
In a laboratory deep within Bruckheimer Studios.
I give this creation life.
We have finally done it.
Anyway, so,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Michael Bay produced TMNT, and it kind of shows.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was a little optimistic. As it got closer and closer to release, I got a little more optimistic because it's directed by Jonathan Liebsman, who directed Wrath of the Titans, which has a special place in my heart for how just shamelessly stupid it is.
Right.
That's kind of like expecting something from Rennie Harlan because of how shamelessly stupid his early films are, though. It's,
well, I mean, it's not.
His
it's
later
not-
films aren't stupid.
well, no, those are just fucking awful.
Okay.
Not really.
I would argue Rennie Harlan's early films, at least there were movies like Cliffhanger where you can watch them and not want to murder someone.
I think Cliffhanger more or less gives Rennie Harlan a lifetime pass to benefit of a doubt, because you never know when he might pull it off again.
Yeah, I don't think that was because of him. I think that was because of the actors, right?
Yeah.
So what about 12 Rounds? 12 Rounds wasn't terrible.
I
I have not seen that one, so I admit I cannot vouch for that. I will give him Die Hard 2. I will
Okay.
give him Cliffhanger. I have not seen The One Kiss Goodnight, but I've heard enough about that. But he also did Cutthroat Island. He did Deep Blue Sea. And I have not seen Exorcist: The Beginning, but I've heard tell it's a work of frightening proportions.
Yeah.
Is that the one with Brad? What's his name? Brad Dourif?
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard that he's good in that.
Okay,
Wait,
so Jonathan
Wait,
Liebsman.
which one has Brad Dourif? What are you referring to?
Exorcist: New Beginning.
Oh, it's worth noting, actually, there are 2 Exorcist movies that came out. They actually trashed an entire Exorcist movie. I think you might be thinking of the other one, because there's Exorcist: The Beginning, and then there's another one called Exorcist. Let's see, what is it called? Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dominion has. Actually, you know what? They might have the same cast, basically.
What?
Yes, well, Stellan Skarsgård is in both, at least. Yeah, because they're 2 different movies. One was directed by Paul Schrader, which is Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
Right.
And Exorcist: The Beginning was directed by Rennie Harlan. They both came out the same year. One got a theatrical release. One was just dumped on DVD.
Mm.
So yeah, but Jonathan Liebsman, I really did get a kick out of Wrath, so I was hoping that he would bring some of that energy and that sort of, sort of that kind of relaxed fun to TMNT. But it's just there's so much about it that didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say that I despise the movie. I just can't get excited about anything in it.
I didn't despise it either,
Or-
but I
Interesting.
think that the fact that I didn't like it so much that it's worse in my memory than it probably actually was.
True.
Also, like I'm reading through the board and stuff last week, and I'm like seeing all these things that I didn't even notice in the movie. Like, for example, how in the shit does Sax have like a mansion on a snowy mountaintop within driving distance of Manhattan?
Yeah, that's something that I wonder. Where is the Alpine Mountain in New York, the New York City area? Yeah.
It's possible they were in what do you call it, like North New York?
Upstate New York?
Upstate New York, right?
It's possible, but that's hours away.
Right, the turtles would have had to have been like driving for so long to get there. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a movie, whatever.
Well, I mean, it's like
Shredder.
in Jurassic Park. How exactly did that ditch get there next to the the T-Rex the T-Rex cage? Because in prior shots, it was clearly just walled off.
That's just a continuity thing, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, like because there is like an entire set piece, even you could argue an entire act centered around this place.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned it last week, just slightly. The stupid screenplay, specifically the stupid dialogue. Like
I still can't believe they used that fucking line, "Tonight I dine on turtle soup."
right.
That would have been forgivable given the right conditions.
I
Well,
guess.
what's worse is that some TMNT fans went apeshit over that. It's like, oh, it's a turtle soup reference. Wow, he did it. And like people
That
were
was
like,
no, that doesn't work because they're trying to build Shredder up as this intimidating, knife-wielding person who's super strong and badass. You can't have him fucking saying lines like
well,
that.
I mean, turtle soup does insinuate that he's going to eat them. So,
You know
I
who
mean,
originally
that is
said?
kind of fucked up.
Well, you know who originally said that line? James Avery Shredder, Uncle Phil Shredder from the cartoons. He can pull off that line. Nobody else.
Is that Shredder's real name, James Avery Shredder?
James Avery, Uncle Phil Shredder. But
No,
no,
that insinuates that Shredder is a family name, and so then.
but it's a very stupid script. I mean, there's that line in there where William Fichtner's like, drain them of all of their blood, even if it kills them.
Despite the fact that killing them would mean no more blood, which would mean no more cure.
But if you drain something of all of its blood, that means it's dead, right? You can't live without. I mean, maybe for a couple minutes, maybe, I don't know.
Last I checked, if the heart doesn't have anything to pump, it seizes up, and yes, you die.
You die, right? So it's kind of a redundant sentence.
I laughed too where Megan Fox, April, was like saving the turtles, and she goes to the screen and it's like administer adrenaline, and she presses like the biggest button on the screen, this is administer adrenaline, like taps it, and it's like overdose imminent.
Like why would these scientists have the adrenaline button that big right there when all they're doing is draining blood?
Also, I'm pretty
Yes.
sure an overdose of adrenaline would make you go into cardiac arrest.
Not like make you hyper.
That was the funniest part of the movie for me.
That was a funny scene, but
They were
I guess-
basically sugar high.
I guess they're giant turtles, so maybe it's acceptable because they're big. You know.
I mean, that's any kind of issue is like it's science. They're mutants.
Oh,
We
yeah, I
do
can
whatever the fuck
forget-
we want.
I can forgive some of those things, and that's why I'm not hating on the movie all that much. All I can say about the movie is that it made me feel numb inside.
Right, I can see that.
And that's almost worse than it being a horrifically bad movie, because
Right,
at least
yeah.
I could get
I don't-
emotional.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's just nothing. It's just so by the numbers, and nothing stays with you. There's nothing worth remembering about it.
Hawk, what did you think of Megan Fox's brilliant acting?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Lack thereof.
So I noticed something interesting in this movie is that Megan Fox's acting was actually better when she was interacting with CGI characters than with human ones.
Well, there were people there when they filmed.
I guess that says a
yeah,
lot
but,
for her personality around human beings.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Megan Fox.
Megan
Fox.
We're
Megan
full circle.
Megan Fox is no Bob Hoskins. She was not acting against nothing. There were people there that she was talking to.
Well, no, I know that, but this like when you think about it, she's talking to a guy that in her mind is like a big ass rat or a fucking talking turtle, and her chemistry with Will Arnett was honestly some of the worst I've ever seen in a film.
Speaking of which, Danny Woodburn got the fucking shaft in this because, in case you don't know, Danny Woodburn is he played Mickey on Seinfeld. He's the little person actor, and I thought he was actually going to get to voice Shredder, but no. We have to put Tony Shalhoub doing a vague accent and sounding tired.
You mean Splinter?
Yeah.
Which, here's the thing, it's not even Tony Shalhoub in the Shredder suit, so what I just don't get, I mean, why...
Tony Shalhoub had nothing to do with Shredder.
Yeah, why couldn't you get at least a Japanese person to voice Shredder?
Splinter?
Splinter?
Well,
Splinter.
okay.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't... They did that with TMNT. They got Mako to do it, and I don't think that was the best combo.
I think Mako did all right.
He was okay, but like, I know Mako is too many other animated characters for me to get on board with that.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think Hawk is most definitely correct about Megan's acting with regards to CGI characters and human characters, because her first scene in the movie, she's a journalist. She's got a notepad and a pen, and she's running up to this guy who works on the docks, and she's like, "Okay, give me the scoop, give me the scoop." And the guy's like,
"Oh God,
are you in special ed?" You know, like he's like.
There's quite a few. Well, they
in that scene. Did anyone else feel sickly because of how much the camera was shaking in that scene where she was interviewing the person?
The camera in that whole movie was terrible.
Yeah. God. The subway scene, the subway ambush was the worst, I think.
I had to look away during that. I thought I was gonna have a seizure.
Yeah, shaky cam is dead. It really is. I love you, Paul Greengrass, but what hell hath you wrought?
Well, he can do it okay. I mean, it's just.
Well, at least, yeah. I mean, most of the time his movies work all right with it.
He's the captain now.
Yeah.
In other terms of stupidity in the film, I think the thing that really I think it might have been what pissed me off the most was like the flashback about the turtles learning ninjutsu. Like
out of a book.
Splinter finds a book in the sewer and reads it and becomes a martial arts master.
That's definitely what pissed me off the most.
You know what? I want to re-edit the movie and replace that ninja book with the Real Ultimate Power Ninja book. Just if you actually get that joke, kudos.
I don't get the joke, but I would be more on board with them being like, he found a magic stone or something, like whatever, a book.
Yeah, and it's like a small book too. It was like 50 pages.
Yeah,
it's like a fucking kids book fair book that they buy.
Before that reveal, the whole thing with April being tied into their backstory, that really pissed me off. But the book was like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. Like,
you know what slayed me about that, about April knowing about her backstory, was when she goes back to her apartment and she's like, Leonardo, Michelangelo, I know those names. I was like, of course you did. You learned about them in school. They're famous artists. Like, are you a fucking tool? Like, what?
That is a running joke throughout the movie, though. Is like everybody thinks she's stupid. Like,
it turns out she's right, but she's also actually stupid.
Yeah.
You know, like she's like both. She just happens to be correct, but that's beyond her capability of competently understanding the actions around her.
And what happened to Sax? Like, he gets hit in the face with a microscope, and then you don't see him again ever.
Yeah. And what about Shredder too? He lands in concrete. And he kind of gets up for a second, then falls back down. So now the police have to like arrest this guy.
Well, he like clenched his fists, so I'm assuming he'll come back for the second one in 2016.
Yeah. Well, I mean, killing Shredder and resurrecting him is just that's the nature of the game. I mean,
I was laughing that whole scene where Shredder was like activating the thing on the top of the building. I was like, does he really have to wear this fucking suit to do this?
No.
He doesn't know the turtles are after him.
I was like, too, the turtles got their asses kicked during that fight. Like, were they actually legitimately badass at any point in the movie?
Were they?
Maybe Raphael at one point when he was talking badass, but
none
other
of
than
the turtles
that,
actually did anything cool. They were never actually cool in the movie. Like, they got their asses handed to them by Shredder both times. They get kidnapped. They get, even during the mountain chase scene, which to me was actually the only good part in the entire movie.
I can't even agree with that. People keep saying that, but I couldn't stand that sequence. It was just defying all. It was pushing it too cartoon for me, and that's just coming from someone who watched the cartoon.
Well, it's that kind of unabashed sense of craziness and so forth that makes some of Jonathan Liebesman's work fun. Like, Wrath was all about that sort of action, and so that's kind of why it resonated with me, is because that was what I had paid to see.
I think that sort of action has gotten diminishing returns for me. I'm sick of these action set pieces that defy all physics, like the Gore Verbinski Lone Ranger kind of thing, where it goes from one crazy moment to even crazier, and he keeps trying to one-up himself in just the most ridiculous ways. That's how I felt this sequence was.
See, I don't mind that sort of thing, because that's just fun, usually. It's just as long as it's not too much. And yes, the Lone Ranger was too much. But this, I felt, it did all right, even though it wasn't all that well shot. It was a neat idea for an action sequence.
I thought that it was really happening. I thought that the turtles were really there, unlike Expendables 3.
Oh, is that our segue, or
it can be? I mean, I'm just saying that's my whole point. Is compared to the action in Expendables 3, and how often the actors weren't actually part of the action, and how painfully obvious that is. That snow scene in Turtles was a fucking compared to that. That's fucking Die Hard.
You're saying what you're saying is CGI turtles or performance capture turtles on a mountain is. You felt the danger.
Trump geriatric stars.
Trump geriatric actor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I agree, kind of. Yeah.
I think.
Turtles 3. I just wanted to point out one more thing though about Turtles, is that the motion capture and CGI for the Turtles was incredible. I didn't like.
Having just seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it was good, but not as good.
In the sense that I found myself. Yeah, Dawn was really good. In the sense that I found myself hating the Turtles, not hating those CGI Turtles and the guys playing them and voicing them. There were times where I just kind of didn't register that they were CGI creations. I hate the turtle design still, for the most part, but
yeah, I thought the turtle design was pretty dirty.
The performance capture itself was quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I'm not gonna shoot it down. It just didn't have the humanity to it that I saw in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Maybe the humanity was in the script in this case. It should have been in the script, but it wasn't, so that's what was missed. I don't know. I say it was the stupidest script I've seen this year.
Oh, yeah, by far.
Yeah, almost. We'll get to that in a moment when we talk about The Giver.
Oh, maybe Expendables 3, but
No. The Giver.
Oh, The Giver. Oh.
Let's do Expendables 3 first.
Expendables 3 was a shit script.
Which it was, yeah.
I guess
better than Expendables 2's script.
Okay, I should preface by just saying this is my first Expendables. I didn't even bother with the other two. I don't think I need to bother with the other two because the only thing you need to know to get with this movie is who the Expendables are and what they do, right?
No, all you need to know in the Expendables series is who they are outside of the film world, and their track record as action stars. That's pretty much the linchpin to the entire series, because every movie has these references to every action movie that each star has been in, or their real life or whatever. So the characters, the story, all this stuff doesn't matter. It's literally just watch Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger fight together. That's literally the payoff right there.
And then we got a whole separate movie of that with, what is it, Escape Plan or?
Yeah.
That one saw.
That one might have actually had a little bit more story to it, or at least a little more effort in the story. But in these cases, these movies are basically Planet Hollywood the movie.
That's fun.
So I actually got a kick out of Expendables 3. It wasn't great, and I thought for the middle section was extremely dry, but the opening action sequence was fun, and the ending action sequence was fantastic.
I actually agree with you on that. I'll give you. I thought the opening captured my attention. It just failed to sustain itself.
The opening was hilarious. I mean, like which hilarious in a good way.
Yes.
They were recapturing Wesley Snipes. The action comes out of nowhere. It's like, boom, first thing happens in the movie, helicopter flying over a train. I was imagining the screenwriter, who was probably Sylvester Stallone, writing this, and
He was one of them.
I was thinking, like, man, are you having fun writing this? I mean, this is shit that I'd be coming up with some of my friends while we're goofing off watching bad movies, you know?
I enjoyed the fact that the villain at the beginning, like the pre-movie villain,
This is what
was
made me
just
laugh.
faceless dictator from unknown country.
I thought he was the prison warden, but the prison warden had a mural behind him, and he steps out in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to assume dictator just because that's the only thing I can think of that would have pictures of himself hung up on walls.
Probably dictator. That makes sense, but
I mean, I would believe that the dictator would want to meet someone in prison who, he's looking to torture to death or something.
right. And then the train, as the sequence ends, enters the prison, and it just blows up.
The whole
Now,
thing
see,
blows up.
It just
The
blows
entire
up.
fucking building collapses in a huge explosion.
And you can see the helicopter flying away, and it's so poorly keyed into the shot that you can see like the seams around it, almost like
Yeah.
it's really bad. The CGI.
I will grant you the CGI was not so good, and it definitely stood out. But yeah,
That it did.
In fact, yeah, fuck it. Let's just talk about the CGI. There's a scene where a guy parachutes down from like a building, and you can tell that everything, like they were matted onto the screen watching him. The parachute guy, I thought for a second, I was like, did they just take footage of somebody parachuting and like key it into the shot? But no, I think the parachute is CGI.
The scene you're talking about, he was mountain climbing, and he falls off the mountain, and then he hits the parachute, and the second he hits that parachute, it's literally a CGI GIF of a parachute opening.
Yeah.
And,
What the fuck was that?
and so the animation was bad, and then on top of that, it was keyed in to the shot so poorly, you could see the light, the color differences, like the shade between the images, and it was my brain was hurting watching it.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because we're going to talk about briefly a movie coming up where the special effects do have some of those dirty elements to it, but it works on those merits specifically because it was part of the humor of the film.
Right.
Expendables could have done something like that if they wanted to, and made that part of the film's. Ultimately, the film is parodying classic action films by creating a new classic action film.
I think that's the theory behind it, but that's not
right.
what's
Well, it's
going on.
it's
That's
not.
not in execution.
That's a poor excuse for what is basically we hired a bad special effects company to handle the special effects.
We hired bad everything. What I think pisses me off about this the most, and again, I haven't seen the first two, but I do know that Expendables 2 was directed by, I think the guy's name is Simon West, the director of Con Air.
Yeah.
And Con Air is a very self-aware movie. That should have been a match made in heaven, but I haven't seen Expendables 2, so I can't speak to it. But
Expendables 2 was moderately okay.
Expendables 2 was actually my least favorite out of the trilogy.
You know what? I'm not even going to make a judgment of the three because honestly, I put all three on roughly equal ground as far as I watched it in theaters. It was fine while I was watching it. I hated some things, but I was entertained more or less. And when I left the theater, I could give a shit.
My whole thing that kind of sets me off about this is like, you have a ton of writers out there that probably love these guys, that could probably come up with a good script and story to necessitate these stupid fucking cameos and all the other nonsense that they want to fucking do. They just choose to get hack writers or have Stallone write it, which that's worked out real well.
Stallone,
He's not a bad writer.
He's had some
credit.
I honestly think he's had some decent scripts in his time, but
Don't get me
also
wrong.
not a lot of them.
Maybe not recently, but he's had some good.
He had some bad ones in the 80s, too.
Yeah, he had Homefront with Jason Statham and James Franco. What about that one, huh?
Not so much.
I think what needs to be mentioned, too, is the action photography in this movie was horrible.
Yeah.
It was just all over the place. There was nothing there that... You have Ronda Rousey. Is that how you say her last name?
I think so.
Who's this MMA fighter, and she's kicking butt, or trying to in the movie. She's doing her moves and everything, but the camera is and the editing is cutting back and forth to different shots, and you don't really get a handle on the geography of where she's at. Mm-hmm. You don't really get a handle on how she's pulling off these moves. It's just flip, flip, flip. I got him down, you know, and it's not. It's like Batman Begins, kind of. Remember that scene where he's fighting all the criminals, and it's just elbow, fist, you know.
Yeah.
At least he's not the guy in The Dark Knight Rises who falls down randomly in the background. You remember that?
Whoa! Can we just and this isn't a surprise. This wasn't a shock to me. But can we just talk about how sexist her character was?
Oh yeah, she was just like men.
And then you know how her fucking character arc is gonna go. Like
later in the movie, she's gonna say men.
Oh, women, hard-boiled women, they just need some dick. That's all. They'll be fine.
But she never gets any.
She never does. No, she says there was a scene where she implied that she would with Stallone if he were 30 years younger. I was like, Stallone probably nailed her in real life. I don't know. You know,
I don't know. I didn't think she was all that bad. It was kind of more like the quintessential 80s heroine. She does hate men. She kicks ass. I mean,
it's 2014. That doesn't work now.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to work. Nothing about the Expendables 3
is supposed to work.
No, that's a weak excuse. It's not supposed to work. Well, then don't waste my fucking time with it.
Don't see a movie called The Expendables that has 20+ classic action actors.
See, I'm gonna go ahead and use this.
It can work. It can work if you do it the right way. They are not doing it the right way.
Is Kelsey Grammer an action star?
I have to be honest.
I guess old school stars.
He was one of the things I liked about the film. His character, I thought, was made for some of the funnier moments in the movie.
It was fun, but yeah.
I do want to point out, the first time we see Kelsey Grammer, and this isn't explained at all, he's watching two shirtless men fight each other in a parking lot. Well, it's not just him. There's a whole group of people.
I'm guessing it was just an unlicensed fight.
Presumably betting on it, but just what? I mean, it kind of threw me off.
That didn't bother me because Stallone was there to recruit people, and he's like Kelsey Grammer's like a scout essentially.
Yeah.
And which by itself was kind of confusing. Like, wait, there are scouts for this shit, but nonetheless, he's a scout, and he's there.
That's a trope of the men on the mission kind of movie. There's a lot of films going back all the way to the 60s that have that, where, you know, there are people who are, you know, they know how to find people. I just saw a few weeks ago on Netflix The Wild Geese with Richard Burton and Roger Moore, and not a great movie, but it has that exact same trope of the recruiter character.
Okay.
I wrote down in my notes, Kelsey Grammer watching shirtless boy fight. That's a funny.
Well, you know what I
wanted to can't talk about Fight Club, Bill.
I don't think Fight Club is... two guys shirtless fighting each other, there's something a little gay about it. There, I said it.
No, Bill, it's a joke. You can't talk about
Fight Club, there's something a little gay about it.
You know what I wanted to see? I wanted to see Grammer with a Gatling gun.
That would have been a lot of fun.
The Grammer Gatling gun.
I think the only thing I took offense to... Go ahead.
I agree that I would have liked to have seen Grammer with a Gatling gun, but I need to take issue with something, Bill. First of all, you're saying that you found that gay. I want to mention that, first of all,
I don't mean...
action movies have had unintentionally homoerotic moments for fucking ever.
Yes.
So that's nothing new. And second, that's not a problem. If they want to do that, whatever. I have to be politically correct here because
I was trying to make a joke, and you ran it into the ground with your political correctness. Thank you, Newt Gingrich.
what?
What?
Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich? What? He's like the opposite of that shit.
Yeah, that would be like.
Was that a joke too, Bill? I just want to make sure.
Yes, come on.
Okay, all right.
Why didn't you make him the mayor of Toronto joke? That would have made a little more sense.
Is his name Rob Ford?
Something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't that guy hilarious? The guy just smokes crack and drinks beer all day.
Wasn't Marion Barry from Washington, D.C. the same way?
Yeah, pretty much.
Billy Carter.
So for like I don't know, like I really I didn't love the Expendables 3. I think all three of those movies have their highs and their lows, but
Yes.
and I wasn't really getting into Expendables 3 until like the last half hour where there's that big action sequence. And yes, poor CGI aside, I thought it was a great action sequence, just like in the original where you have all the characters coming together and they're just killing the shit out of everyone.
I will give you that I was entertained by that, but the thing is, and we haven't mentioned it yet, so I have to mention, how much did this movie improve by Antonio Banderas' presence?
A lot.
A lot. Yeah. It improved.
I don't have the other movies to compare it to, but he was good in it.
I really love Antonio Banderas.
But at the same time, like the cast, I don't have a problem with the cast. If anything, like that's the thing. It's like I want this cast to be in good hands. With
Right. And I think his character was. I don't know how much of it was written and how much of it Antonio added to it with his personality.
There was some funny moments from him.
His character was the only one of the entire Expendable team that I thought was allowed to bring a true presence.
Mm-hmm.
He really felt like an unusual character, and you kind of got a feeling that he had some darkness to him. His character has a friggin' arc. No other character in this movie has an arc. And you find out that he does have some darkness, and he's looking to redeem himself. Cool. That's something to work with.
I also really enjoyed Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
Snipes was fine. Underused towards the end. They used him a lot at the beginning. I felt like they ignored him a little bit towards the end.
Who?
Yeah, it's like how he shaved with a knife, and he's always like jingling.
He shaved himself really well too.
That was pretty impressive. Yeah,
that was a very impressive shave.
That has.
You would almost think the beard was fake. Oh.
And I will admit, it was a little too easy of a joke to say to go with the tax evasion thing. But yes, I laughed.
Oh, it's funny because that's kind of like, again, Billy, and you will argue with me, but that's the point of these movies, is to be really stupid.
No. That's not what I took issue with. What I took issue with is you saying like something won't work, so that's why it's good.
I didn't say that.
That's you said the whole thing about the women. And
I said I don't take offense to the way the woman is portrayed because that's the intention.
My point is, if something doesn't work, don't put it in.
I don't agree with women being portrayed like that in films, but that's how 80s action movies are, and this is a love letter to that era.
The Expendables is throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's let's take all of these things and throw them at the wall and hope that enough of them stick that people enjoy the movie.
Well, I got to take issue, as far as it being a love letter to the era, I think it started as that, but this, especially with bringing in the younger characters, it's trying to sustain itself as its own thing at this point.
I mentioned that movie I saw a while ago, The Wild Geese. This movie actually rips off a ton of plot elements from that. If you watched it, The Wild Geese now, went back and watched it, you'd be like, well, it's a much slower movie because it was made in the late 70s and such, but as far as it being a salute to action cinema, I can see that if you're going with, it taking a lot of plot points and moving forward.
Well, here's the deal with that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we've had The Last Stand, Escape Plan, what's the Stallone and the cop one?
Bullet to the head.
Bullet to the head. Expendables. How many love letters to the era do we fucking need?
As many as you can.
I will say
get
this.
Money out of you. I don't know.
I mean, it'd be different if it was like...
There are too many, if only because not a single one has fully recaptured it.
Right.
If one comes along that actually feels like a full-fledged love letter, cool, but they always have to insert some elements that are a little too off-kilter and don't feel true. To this day, I mean, as entertaining as I found like the Rambo remake, I will still go back and watch First Blood any day over that. I will watch First Blood Part 3 any day over Rambo. I will watch Cobra over any modern...
Ooh, Cobra is like the top-of-the-line 80s action right there.
And here's the thing, Cobra is not an objectively good movie. It's really bad in a lot of ways.
It's 80s. That's what, if you want to point to something and go, what is 80s? That is 80s right there.
Cobra and Commander. Cobra Commander.
Cobra has lines like, this is where the law stops, and this is where I start, sucker. Yeah.
So, what do you guys think about the PG-13 rating?
That was horrible. There was one scene in the movie where Harrison Ford is flying a helicopter. Exactly. Where Harrison Ford is flying a helicopter, and he shoots down another helicopter, but we don't cut away to see that helicopter crashing and blowing up. It just sticks with Harrison Ford, and he's just like... And then you hear off camera, you hear the explosion. So it's like, oh, they didn't want to show the destruction because that would have been too...
You know what? The PG-13 didn't bother me all that much, if only because the violence in the other Expendables movies was... the photography in all of the other Expendables movies was so... Just like this one, was so all over the place, even when it was being violent, they didn't show enough of it for it to really matter, with the exception of the knife fight in Expendables 2. So it didn't bother me all that much.
I agree. Like, everybody kind of made a fuss about this being PG-13 instead of R, and really, it's not that bad. Like, the other two were pretty tame Rs.
I didn't notice, honestly.
Go see Rambo.
I didn't notice.
That's like NC-17 almost.
Yeah, I think it was until they cut it down. They had to make a lot of very careful cuts to make it R.
Oh, and it's all about the unrated version of Rambo, because that sequence with the .50 caliber gun and bodies just exploding.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
It's awesome.
It's not the best story, but you know what? It is.
I don't know. As far as I didn't get choked up watching Rambo, but I certainly understood what Stallone was going after, and I liked it.
Oh yeah, well that's why I mentioned it as being the best of these like newer like love letters to the classics.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it did feel like the best of them, but it still wasn't as... I still would have watched any of the other Rambo movies first. So yeah. But point being, PG-13 action in this didn't bug me as much as I thought it would.
What really bugged me was the green screen. The green screen was out of control the whole movie. There were so many shots where somebody's hanging off of something, and it's cutting between a location shoot and what was obviously somebody on a set in a green screen. It just kept pissing me off, because it's like, it looks real, it doesn't look real. It looks real, it doesn't look real. There's a part where Wesley Snipes slides on the top of the train.
The green screen doesn't bother me as much because at least that's the actual actor who is there in whatever is being shot. The scenes that bother me are when you see like Stallone's character do some crazy jump, but they never show his face, and it's plainly obvious that it's a stunt double who's probably.
I saw everybody's stunt double in this.
That usually doesn't bother me, seeing this. That just makes me laugh in a good way.
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but the whole thing is like the editing with the green screen, with the stunt doubles. This could have been way tighter.
It's pretty bad, but there was a moment in there that really got me, was when Harrison Ford is flying the helicopter, and I keep going back to this. I don't know why, but he's flying the helicopter, and it has to do with how the helicopter is keyed into the shot. It's like it's flying around, and then suddenly it jumps and it moves somewhere else in the shot. And it's as if someone took the mouse and the arrow and pressed the helicopter and then moved it slowly.
Oh my god.
Because it wasn't where it should have been.
Somebody should make that Photoshop GIF of like the clicker, the mouse pointer, like moving the helicopter.
Right, that's what it felt like. It didn't feel like the motion of a real helicopter. So it came off really phony and really cheap.
Yeah, well, have you guys seen in the news? There's this controversy about a bathing suit photograph that was photoshopped, where they photoshopped a girl, a girl's bikini line basically, and it's such a horrible Photoshop that the bathing suit like digs into her pelvis, and you can even see bits of the bathing suit on her leg where it was supposed to have been erased. Those cheap moments, I think some people don't realize how obvious it is to the internet generation when that happens.
Yeah.
Because we've seen these tricks a lot, and it takes more to fool us. And that's almost why I prefer practical effects, even if they're not, 100%, because at least it's something that is... At least it's something where you're like, you know why it's happening, but you feel like they took the effort to try to do it the difficult way. They didn't just key it into a computer and try to make it disappear.
Right.
Well, have you guys seen the trailer for Who Killed Captain Alex?
I have not.
It was, oh man, I'm gonna have to find the link to this and put it in the side. But
wait! Who? You mean
the African movie? Yeah.
Yes.
Who Killed Captain Alex?
Oh my God! Yes.
Action!
That is amazing. Yeah, Bill and Chris, you both have to see it.
Yeah.
So I'm just reading something about how apparently Trench and Yin Yang are a gay couple in Expendables 3. At the very end, they're like chuckling to each other, and Barney's like, "You guys want to get a room?" And they're like, "We don't need a room." Like, oh, he's jealous. And then
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jet Li are a gay couple?
That's what I assumed from it.
well, I'm looking at this link on here. Somebody asked Patrick Hughes, the director, if they're gay, and he's like, "Yeah, I believe they are."
No, I seriously thought that's what they were implying, because there's a line of, he says, "So you're working for him now?" And Jet Li gets this weird look on his face and says, "He pays me more."
By which I mean sodomy.
Pays me in dick.
I don't know. I think he may be the power bottom in that relationship.
Oh, he has to be.
It pays me in cuddles.
Has Danny Trejo been in one of these movies yet?
No.
No.
That's a seriously missed opportunity.
Well, there's so many possible action stars you could put into it, and so
I did like the reference to Bruce Willis no longer being part of the franchise. It's like, don't worry about Church, he's out.
yeah.
And
Actually, Harrison Ford was not a bad replacement. I actually kind of liked the way they wrote him into it.
I thought it was funny whenever Statham was talking, and Harrison Ford's like, "What the hell is that guy saying?"
Yeah.
like, what language is that?
Right, that was okay. That was fine.
There was some line that Harrison Ford has, and I don't remember the setup to it, but he's just like, "Arr!" Like, you can't make out what the fuck he says at all.
I get the sense that Jason Statham was... I get a sense that he was busy filming other movies when they put him in this, because he was a major part of Expendables 1 and 2, and he's barely in this movie, other than a couple of brief lines and, an action shot here and there.
I think he's doing the Transporter 3 and 4.
Yeah, which, I mean...
I'm sorry, 4 and 5.
That's okay. I mean, I'll miss those, but
Crank 3, you fucks.
Really,
Yes,
after
Crank
Crank 2, you actually want them to make a Crank 3?
I want them to. Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
there's something you can pull there. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Crank 2 is fucking amazing, but I think there's still something there.
Crank 2 is the rumored storyline for Crank 3 is that he becomes irradiated and has to continue dosing himself with nuclear radiation to stay alive.
I cannot fucking wait. I will be there.
No, it's not confirmed. This was like several years ago, but I would love if that was actually true.
Well, I know Neville Dean and Taylor are directing movies individually now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're doing separate projects at the moment, but I would hope they will get together and do a Crank 3. That would be amazing.
Real quick, before we get off of Expendables, how did everybody like Mel Gibson? I know
I had a
think
blast
it's
watching Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I had a blast too. I loved when he's in the truck when they think they got him, and he's like basically messing with Stallone's head. You know, he's talking about how they used to be in a relationship, not a gay one, but like they used to have. And
it was classic crazy Mel Gibson.
Right, it was pretty good. He did a good job. I didn't believe it when he went to sweep Stallone's leg. I was like, that's not Mel Gibson doing that. But the rest of it was fine. He did a good job.
I actually, and this is one of the few movies where I did believe his insane drive, where he decides, I'm going to go kill this guy myself.
Mm-hmm.
If it was any other actor, I might have thought, yeah, that's just an excuse to have a big fight sequence at the end.
Yeah.
But it worked for him because they made it clear that he's kind of a nutball. And you know what? Mel Gibson sells crazy for a reason.
Yes, he does.
He sells crazy by the pound because he's got it by the poke.
Was I the only one bothered that he doesn't take that shot on Sylvester Stallone in the beginning and he shoots Terry Crews instead?
I was not, if only because I think later in the film they establish how, in his own way, he would rather have hurt Stallone and see how hurt he gets.
Mm-hmm.
What didn't sell me is the fact that Terry Crews' character actually lives.
Yeah,
that was I
weird.
think, just an excuse to have him still alive because they felt sentimental or something.
I don't know about that. I think maybe they just want to keep putting him in these movies, but
well, yeah, he's cheaper.
I do think it's a little off-putting that the second Wesley Snipes comes into this movie, they have to take out the other black cast member.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I just realized I have a potential Expendables 4 pitch it's three words long.
Blaxploitation Expendables.
No. Long. And Bill, I think you'll be on board for this. Expendables 4. Tim and Eric's.
Now that
Expendables 4.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I don't.
It'll never happen.
Isn't Tim already doing a sort of Expendables movie? But it's a TV show on the Adult Swim.
Oh yeah, it's a miniseries. What is that called?
With Joe Estevez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're referring to. So the point being, that is something. Especially, hey, Terry Crews is already on board, and
But that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, giving it to Tim and Eric, okay, that's somebody that would do something interesting with this project. It seems like the writers and directors that have helmed all these movies just really don't care.
The show is Decker, by the way.
A lot of these, these directors are directors for hire, and Stallone is the one who's ultimately in control of the project.
And I put the blame on him then, because he should be out scoping young talent, trying to find people that would be passionate about this, because there are people out there that would jump at the chance to make a dynamic movie with these guys.
I don't know. If I were an actor or an aspiring action actor, I don't think I would want to sit on Stallone's casting couch.
Well, you know what? It's ultimately, if you're a director for hire...
I meant that in a disgusting sex way.
Oh.
Because it'd be crunchy. You know what I mean?
So, let's segue out of Expendables 3 then.
You just fucking said that.
In the name of a movie that I saw that no one else did, but I do want to talk about it, if only because I saw it and I paid money to see it, so I must at least mention it. I saw The Giver this weekend.
Not starring Jet Li or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
Called The Giver, the Tape.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's...
Thank you.
You win the internet today, Bill.
All right.
So, The Giver is based on a novel by Lois Lowry. Lois, and it's a for those of you who aren't familiar with the book, it's widely read in middle and elementary school reading classes. Basically, the story is, I would call it a young adult 1984 kind of concept. The concept behind The Giver is, it's set in this future where the dark history of humanity has been more or less erased in the name of humanity now taking the form of this isolated community where, based on some controls, no one can see color, no one can feel emotion, no one can. Everyone is forced to be act a certain way with each other. It's basically a very tightly closed-off community, and people are designated jobs from their birth that are not from when they reach a certain age. They're designated jobs. They're pretty much worker drones where they're given the job, and it's all in the name of keeping the human race going. The exception being there is one character called the Receiver of Information who basically has all of the memories of humanity stored in his mind. And his job is simply to act as a consultant to keep society from making the same mistakes as the past. But it's a painful job because you're the only one who's allowed to feel. No one else has that trait. Other than your protege. And the story takes place as this kid comes of age and is given, he is designated the new Receiver of Information, at which point the old one becomes the Giver, where he basically gives this information, his life experience and emotions to the child, who in the book is 12 years old. In the movie is, I think they age him up to like 16, something like that.
How old is the actor? Because did they really shell out for a tutor?
That's a good question. The actor is Brendan Thwaites. Let's see, how old is he?
He's like almost 19, I think.
1989, actually, was when he was born.
Oh, Jesus, so he's
25. You know what? He looked young enough in the movie. That didn't bother me.
Right, yeah, I'm just saying, like, yeah, a lot of times it's probably more cost-effective to hire someone over 18.
Oh, absolutely it is, because you're right, you do have to hire a tutor and such. That's a major expense. And then there's restrictions on when you can do shooting and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's all besides the point. The movie is directed by Philip Noyce, who, as we're mentioning directors for hire, he is one of the more accomplished ones. He's a director for hire who, I think he's done more good movies than bad, but he does just about whatever movie he's paid to do. Among his good movies, he directed Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Rabbit Proof Fence, The Quiet American remake, all of which are perfectly decent movies. He also directed, on the other hand, The Saint. He directed The Bone Collector.
Yes.
He directed Salt.
Salt. Oh,
and,
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, those are the movies of his that I've seen. His good movies like Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger and Rabbit Proof Fence are all really entertaining. But he's a director who I don't think he's not the kind of director who really gives a style to a movie. He's a director who is brought in to make a movie professionally. And in that respect, the problem with hiring a director like that for a movie like The Giver is it's too conceptual in order to. It's basically like giving an architect it's like giving an architect who designs business office complexes and telling him to design the Louvre. It doesn't quite translate. Because the Giver cries out for an art film director, someone with like a lot of nuance and creativity to really shoot something stylistically. Noyce is not capable of that. It's a competently directed movie that has a horrible screenplay, and the problem is the screenplay uses too much dialogue from the book that is not dialogue that translates. That's the problem. It's almost, even though it diverts from the book a little bit in some notable moments, it's true to a lot of the spirit of the story, but in the wrong ways. The book's dialogue worked because it was a book, and you didn't have to hear people say those words.
Well, give an example.
Oh, geez.
I have an anti-example, which is Clockwork Orange.
All right.
This
Well,
movie wishes it was Clockwork Orange.
Have you ever read the book of Clockwork Orange?
Have I?
I have
Has anybody? You've never read the book? I tried to once, but it's like you need to translate everything because it's all written in that slang and it's all from first-person point of view.
Well, now, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, weren't you reading at one point Finnegan's Wake?
Oh, yeah.
How long did that last?
30 pages or so.
Wow, you made it that far. Amazing. I couldn't get past the first couple when I looked at it.
It's insane. Like it's even more insane fuck, who wrote it?
James Joyce.
Had, I think he filled almost a dozen notebooks just taking notes and planning out that book. There is some psychotic order to this book. It makes perfect sense to James Joyce.
Yeah.
And no one else.
Yeah.
Well, he died before it was technically finished, so I don't think we'll ever know the true story. But point being about The Giver, The Giver has some things for it that are admirable. I want to mention Jeff Bridges said in an interview for The Nerdist that he wanted to make The Giver into a movie for a long time. At one point, he says that he and his father actually shot a sort of short film to sort of get a stylistic idea of how to approach the movie. And I would love to see a copy of that with Lloyd Bridges playing the main character of The Giver. That would have been great casting. And actually, in some ways, Jeff Bridges he doesn't fully get into his father's mode, but there are some elements of his look in the movie that you can tell he's sort of borrowed from Lloyd, which is kind of interesting. His performance is what made this movie something that I could sit through, because he gives it his fucking all. He makes the dialogue, even the clunky dialogue, work, because he's just that good at what he does. The scenes that he's in are great. The problem is the fact that the filmmakers, they took this dialogue and they inserted elements of the young adult trends that are so popular nowadays, with movies like Twilight and such, and or what was that one?
Divergent.
Yeah, a lot of those elements that were added to the movie just clash terribly with what is. The movie has kind of some artistic elements in that the first half of it is mostly black and white. And it's, of course, the book is written that way, and the concept is that his character has been driven away from emotion for so long that he no longer even sees in color. It's only when it's described to him by the giver and the emotions are given to it in the context that he discovers the power of color. In the movie, they turn it into there's some giant force field that takes color away. Yeah, so... Yeah. With that said, the movie still has one of the darkest moments in a PG-13 rated film, because it was right from the book, of this kid has no concept of death, and he suddenly and the giver gives him the concept of warfare before he's ready for just basic death. And then he finds out that everyone in their society aspires to reach the point where they are released to elsewhere, which is supposed to be basically like their vision of heaven, but they don't have a concept for describing it. And what release to elsewhere means is you're taken to a lab, you're given an injection, and you're thrown into a furnace. And the movie downplays the release concept a little bit the book goes into more detail with it and was more messed up, but the basic core scene where you discover what release is left there, where it's a cold, heartless scene where this kid sees his own father inject into the forehead of a baby poison.
Oh, they actually do that. They actually do the baby thing.
And you watch as the baby stiffens and stops moving, and you watch as his father, without even batting an eye, because he doesn't understand the concept of death. That's the thing that's fucked up about this society. He just thinks that what he's doing is releasing this kid is doing this kid, wonders, when what in reality he's doing is taking this kid, poisoning him to death, putting him into a box, and throwing him into the furnace.
Jesus.
Now, they don't show the fire from the furnace. They put him in a box and throw the box down this slot. It's very... I appreciate that, the fact that they were willing to at least keep that scene in it. There's a lot to appreciate about The Giver as a story. There's some elements of this movie that I like. And Philip Noyce, he directs it competently, but if they had found a director who was more willing to be a little bit more experimental, if they found... if the script downplayed some of the rougher dialogue from the book, and made it a little bit more realistic, and if they had not had so much pressure to turn it into a to jump on the young adult movie trends, this could have been great. And it's the fact that it failed so much at that makes it really sad to me, and that's what I am. I'm sad that this movie wasn't better than it was, because there was potential for it.
Isn't that kind of the same thing that happened with Ender's Game last year, though? Or was that this year?
I liked Ender's Game a little bit more, if only because I think it handled the material, and it was late last year, but it handled the material, I think, a little better. Granted, I didn't read the book, so I can't say that for sure. But you're right. It has that missed opportunity feel to some extent. This more so, at least for me. This was crying out for. I would have loved to have seen. I would have loved to have seen a director like David Lynch take on this material.
Oh yeah.
Because. Yeah, David Lynch, and here's the thing, it wouldn't have to be a rated R movie. It could be, like, David Lynch can do, like, a PG movie or a PG-13 movie, and he did with A Straight Story, it's PG rated, and service a family-friendly story while still making it very odd and kind of crazy. He's a director who I think would have just gone bonkers with this and made it wonderful and still commercial. In fact, I would argue he could have made it commercial, because this movie did not do well in the box office. It just saddens me that it wasn't better. Okay, so now that we've covered that, are any other questions for me about it, or are we?
No. Do we want to talk about Let's Be Cops?
Did anyone see it?
No, I just mean like a little speculation trailer talk.
Does anyone care?
Well, when I saw the trailer, I was like, this could either be pretty funny or extremely terrible.
Yeah, I pretty much got the same vibe.
And it looks like it's the latter.
I had the opinion I had of Let's Be Cops was the exact same opinion I had of the trailer of Cop Out.
Oh, that's way worse.
I had the same feeling.
This trailer looks way better than Cop Out did.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It really, really does.
I disagree. I did not find the trailer interesting at all.
No.
But it was more interesting than the Cop Out trailer, was it not?
No, it wasn't. Cop Out didn't look good. This doesn't look good. I'm sorry.
Cop Out, that's another one. Love letter to the action movie.
I did not get that vibe at all.
I didn't get that thing either.
That's what they sold it to me as. That's what Kevin Smith kept claiming that it was.
Well, he
Well,
can say whatever he wants.
You're getting mad at me. I didn't fucking say it.
Well, you know what? I mean, what else? What other movies has Damon Wayans Jr. been in? Marmaduke, Blank Man. He had a young role as a kid.
Yeah, he was probably like a little kid. Yeah.
The Other Guys.
That's a good movie.
Is
The Other
it?
Guys?
The Other Guys is a great movie.
Oh, the one with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg?
Once
Yeah.
again, respectfully disagreeing here.
I'm not. I think it's okay. I'm not gonna say great. It's just okay.
He is doing a voice in Big Hero 6, which I saw the trailer for, the full trailer recently, and looks quite interesting.
It looks really funny.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I don't know about
Bill
funny.
Bill
but
Arsenault, I'm feeling very alone here. What did you think about The Other Guys?
I never saw it. I saw the
Oh, really?
trailer, but the trailer looked funny to me. I mean,
I think this is.
I saw bits and pieces of the movie on TV, and it looked funny.
I think it's up there with Step Brothers, to be honest.
Really? I can't say that.
See,
Well,
that's
it's
the
like
thing.
a little
I didn't like Step Brothers.
Well,
So-
for like, well, we can just disagree on that later. But there's a scene towards the end where Michael Keaton's like police captain character. He's also works at Bed Bath and Beyond, and he's giving like the pep talk to his employees. And apparently, they filmed almost 12 minutes of just him saying random shit. Like, if somebody looks like they're in a gang and they want to buy knives, don't let them do it. Just be smart about that. And it's like stuff like that. And he improvised like a solid 10 to 12 minutes of just saying bad body, bad talk shit.
I'm just imagining this in my head because I haven't seen this, but
Like I haven't seen the whole. They haven't released the whole set of it, but he just says some really weird stuff. And his character has a tendency to like randomly like quote TLC.
and it's Michael Keaton, right?
Michael Keaton.
Okay. That's just amazing to me. That sound. I'd give that movie an A+ right there.
Yeah, check out the other guys, Bill. I think you would like it. I don't know what Ken and Bill are
I mean, I don't hate it. It's okay. I think the
Okay.
best part, one of my favorite gags in it is that The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson are like the Lethal Weapon team, but then they get pretty much taken out of commission like 10 minutes into the movie.
Thanks for spoiling it.
No, I knew that. I knew that was happening.
Yeah, that's in the
Okay.
trailer.
Aim for the bushes.
Before I talk about my the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which I had a chance to screen recently, I do want to really quickly mention. I know it's been announced for some time, but it didn't dawn on me and what we were getting into about the Ant-Man movie.
You're getting into?
The director, you know who they announced for it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen any of those movies, but I've
The
heard
director,
of them.
Peyton.
All right.
Payner.
His filmography.
Is what?
You cut out there.
I cut out.
Yeah.
You cut out like most of what you just said.
The director, Peyton Reed, did
Okay.
Bring It On, Down with Love, The Breakup, and Yes Man. That's his filmography.
Never saw The Breakup. Didn't he direct Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or was my thinking of?
No,
oh,
that
that's
was
Simon Kinberg.
Someone else.
No, I
No,
don't think it
the
was.
guy that did Edge of Tomorrow
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares?
and Born Identity. Fuck, what's his name? It doesn't matter.
I know who you're talking about, but
Yeah, we know what you're talking about.
Yes Man. That's one where I'm like, what?
yeah, all of those
Easily.
movies are fucking terrible.
Well,
I
they-
gotta-
I don't think that there's any debating
Well,
those movies.
Edgar Wright was associated with Ant-Man for so long, and then to drop out just before production, I mean, Marvel was like, all right, who the fuck do we get that can do this material? And
Yeah, the guy who did Down with Love. Let's bring him in.
let's go with him. But to be fair, the guys that did, what was that movie?
You, Me, and Dupree.
You, Me, and Dupree.
Now, here's the
Did
thing.
Captain
is that
America and Winter Soldier.
They
They
did,
did.
but they also had.
They did a lot of work on television. They've directed episodes of Community and Arrested Development, and the show Community sometimes requires actual directing skills.
And those are all like really big action flicks.
To be fair, Peyton Reed as a television director has a much better looking mix because he directed the Weird Al Show. He directed 5 episodes of Mr. Show with Bob and David, and he directed apparently episodes of the Upright Citizens Brigade.
Well, there you go.
So that's something, but all of those was well over a decade ago.
All of those was.
Yes, all of those was. All of those were. Did I say what?
It doesn't matter. It was funny.
We're busting your balls.
Yeah.
All of those were over a decade ago.
We're busting your balls, Rob Ford.
and he followed up those with doing Bring It On, Down with Love, The Breakup, and Yes Man.
I gotta come out and say, Bring It On's not that bad. You gotta ease off a bit. It's really not.
No, it's not good.
The 5 sequels, go pick on those.
Oh, you're defending a movie about cheerleading.
I know.
It's not that the movie's about cheerleading.
Oh, Ian Roberts from Upright Citizens Brigade, he plays the Spirit Fingers guy in Bring It On. He's fucking hilarious in that.
Well, okay, so Ken, what are you getting at with Ant-Man?
What I'm getting at is that my goodwill has evaporated.
Well, I mean, didn't they just release a photo from the?
It looks so. Oh God! It just. Seeing Paul Rudd under a bridge trying to look like a superhero, I'm like, what is this? What are you making right now?
He doesn't play the scientist, right, Paul Rudd?
No, he's supposed to be a thief.
Hank Pym, Henry. He doesn't play that guy.
Inherently silly concept, and so it does require a delicate hand. And the problem is, I don't think that getting a director for hire like Peyton Reed is going to do that. It's so anyway. Moving on. I'm done being angry. And so now I can talk.
Well, who? If you could attach someone to Ant-Man to direct, who would you like to see on it?
Oh, I wish they would have gone with Ross and Marshall Thurber.
And obviously, don't say Edgar Wright.
Yeah, if he can't be Edgar Wright, I would have actually gone with.
What about the woman that directed Wayne's World?
Penelope Spheris, is that her name?
Yeah.
That's an odd choice, but that could work.
I think that would work.
Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow.
Women directors.
So what would that look like?
Very brooding.
The wrong tone.
I've been turned into an ant.
You know what? Joe Cornish.
Okay.
He's from Edgar Wright's sort of Rat Pack, but he has, in his own right, created a very entertaining and likable movie, Attack the Block.
Who directed on that in his own Edgar Wright?
Oh yes, in his own Edgar Wright.
Who directed Bubba Hotep and John Dies at the End?
Don Coscarelli.
He should have been. Yeah, he should be in charge of this fucking project.
They'll never do that simply because he's never done a commercial movie.
God damn it.
The Phantasm movies always make money on the back end with like VHS and DVD sales and stuff, but goddamn, no one cares about them in theaters. And the same thing with Bubba Hotep and John Dies at the End. All of them have made money. None of them have been theatrical moneymakers.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if they did, they were, it was skin of your teeth profit.
Well, think about putting James Gunn on Guardians. What the fuck? Super and Slither didn't make a shit ton of money. Those were kind of like, probably made more money on home video than they did in theaters.
I think James Gunn had a little more ammunition with regards to his screenwriting career.
That's true.
He did Dawn of the Dead, he did the Scooby-Doo 2, and he helped out with other movies. So.
But I really think that, at this point, I think it's fair, as much as we don't really care for Peyton Reed, I think it's fair to trust Disney.
I think Marvel has earned at least benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, because what they have not, thus far, they have not failed in getting a strong director for any of their films. Even if the films are objectively not all that great, the direction on all of them has been uniformly very solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you that much. But I also feel like, as far as goodwill, I will see it, but I also have no expectations. So that's about as far as I'm going to take it. with that said, Don Coscarelli couldn't do it, Bill, because he's too busy working on Bubba Nosferatu, Curse of the She-Vampire.
That's happening?
Well, they keep announcing it and not doing it, so we'll see.
That's not going to happen.
The last time it was updated on IMDb was June 1st, though. So...
I love Bubba Hotep, but some people can't get down with it. That movie fucking cracks me up.
Bubba Hotep is great. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
If you want to learn how to write dialogue, listen to his opening monologue about how his dick doesn't work.
Yeah, it's somehow is poignant, which is the best part. I watched that movie with my mom, and
I watched it with my dad.
Yeah, when my mom loves a movie that's that weird, that's a good sign, I think. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about a lot of movies this week, but I have one more I need to talk about because I had a chance to watch a screener of Angry Video Game Nerd the movie. First of all, I want to ask, how are all of you familiar with the Angry Video Game Nerd videos? Like, have you watched them, at least enough of them that you're familiar with it?
Sure.
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Okay, excellent. So I don't have to fill in too much. Point being, the movie very much is an extension of that series. It in every way, shape, and form. From a budget perspective, it feels like if you made a feature-length version of that show with a little bit more, with a little bit more of a budget, but the same sentiment of we're gonna make this. We're gonna make as much as we can. We're gonna go way more. We're gonna have shots that a bigger budget would demand, but we're gonna film it with miniatures, and we're going to light things on fire. It really emphasizes practical effects. I had a lot of fun with that. There are miniature shots where it's literally just what could have been a Micro Machine car, and I love that. I dig that when they make it work within that context. It's really an entertaining, fun movie, and it's all about the fan culture of retro gaming. It really embraces that. I had, there were a few rough edges, I think, around the screenplay, but you know what? It's the first feature-length film these guys have made, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't want to go into too much detail because I want you guys to see this movie, and I don't want to spoil some of the more fun aspects, but I will open myself up to any questions you guys might have. And also, I do want to state that the movie will be coming to video on demand on September 2nd, and I encourage everyone to rent this movie and spend money, give this guy money, let him make another movie. So, do you guys have any questions about it? Anything that might have interested you? Any concerns that you might want addressed?
I am fascinated with the transition from a series to film.
Okay.
And I think ultimately, how would you stack this up with other entries in that sort of genre? I don't know if you would call it a genre, but you know what I mean.
As far as translating like a series to film, or translating a web series, or just any kind of series?
Any series, basically, to film. I would say primarily television, but this isn't a television show, so...
It's way better than Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. To be honest, I've actually never even seen Twin Peaks. I just said that because most people jump on that one. That's like their go-to.
No, it's a good movie.
Is it?
I like Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Okay, yeah, I have to be honest. That was, I'd never seen it, so I will eventually. As far as that, you know what? For some reason, I'm blanking, Bill, on television to movie adaptations, so throw some out.
Is it better than The Brady Bunch, the movie?
Oh.
Yes.
Well, that's not really comparable because that's more of a reboot /
or
parody.
Beverly Hillbillies. Jesus.
Again, that's more of a reboot. I mean, like...
Sex and the City, the movie?
That's a good one. I mean, that's a bad example, but that's a good
there's that is a great example, if only because while I'm not a fan of Sex and the City, the TV series, there were at least things you could say about the series that weren't horrible. That would not be said for the movies.
What about the movie that that guy with the glasses did?
Which one?
Yeah, he's done a couple.
Well, what about of any of them?
Well, it's. I will say this. This is by far the biggest budgeted movie of them because Kickstarter got him a nice amount of money to make him to basically let him do the movie on the scale of, like, say, a trauma film or maybe an asylum film. It allowed him the flexibility to make it feel like a feature film. It's clearly not a mega budget movie, but he was able to film it on a real camera. I'll say that much.
Right.
Okay. Because don't get me wrong, as much as I enjoyed like To Boldly Flee or or Kick-Assy and those other that guy with the glasses movies / I guess you could call them series because some of them are like 4 hours long.
Special miniseries, whatever.
Yeah. Those are entertaining, but they are ultimately still shot, on a regular old digital camcorder, and that's fine. They're great, but they don't have a cinematic quality to them as much as this might. That said, this still has the feel of, like, there are some elements that feel like an extended episode of the series, budgetarily and stylistically, but that works because in a way it is. And what's interesting is the movie does in fact end with exactly what you would expect, in that being a review.
Right. That's something I'm kind of concerned with. How is that worked in? And I mean, does it feel natural? Does it feel out of place? Like,
not to give anything away, but it feels natural because they found a line of demarcation to separate it from a story. The story has a conclusion, and then you have then you get satisfaction from watching him do what he does best, and that's insult a piece of shit game.
Okay.
One thing I found interesting that they had to do, probably for cinematic purposes, probably I don't know, maybe they were worried about being sued by Spielberg Studios or something. They had to change the game from just plain old E.T. to EEETEE.
What? Oh, okay.
They changed the cartridge. They actually changed the sprites. It looks like they reproduced the sprites to make them look as close as they could to the game, but not actually being the original sprites from the game.
Interesting.
And they did that with most of the if not all of the games in the movie. I'm wondering if there's some sort of rights concern that they had, or if they wanted to avoid that concern altogether.
That's probably more or less.
It's possible, I can see that because ultimately, for his website, those are straight reviews of those. And I guess you could come with a movie. You could come into question, does this count as a review, or are you just using this in the movie? And, would they have to pay a licensing fee? Or would it be harder to defend in court that they were being critical? So, yeah, I could see that. If you can get past those minor bits, there's a lot to enjoy. The cameos from the internet community and the video game community are all really entertaining, and they do not break up the film in any way, shape, or form. From the comedy community, I was super impressed to hear that Eddie Pepitone has a scene in the movie.
I saw that on IMDb.
Yeah. If you are at all familiar with Eddie Pepitone, you know that he's good at playing an outraged kind of person. That's not how he is. And if you don't know who Eddie Pepitone is, you have no fucking excuse because his comedy special just posted to Netflix, and it's fantastic. Watch the hell out of it. Excellent stuff. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns with it? No? Okay. Well, with that, since I don't want to spoil too much of it, I'll let you guys watch it on your own time. And I think that brings a close to this week's Pubcast, unless anyone has any final thoughts.
Nope.
Nah.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next Wednesday as the world turns.
Oh my God, Sin City 2 comes out next week.
Yeah.
Comes out this week.
Comes out this Friday. Yeah.
Whatever. Fucking next Wednesday we'll talk about it.
That we will. Peace.